not otherwise.
Right, sir.
If I don't go there, because of course Supreme Court definitely gives me a Constitution definitely gives me a right to right and to a lot of things at the moment, which have been taken away from me now,
Right,
one
sir.
by one. So first, when you say about Constitution, definitely that cannot happen,
Right, sir.
but that needs to be challenged. That
Right, sir.
needs to be challenged and order taken now.
Right,
Till
sir.
such time that does not happen, the ordinance continues. Second aspect is whether this would lead to economic stimulus. Now again, that is questionable. That is again questionable because economic stimulus, there are variety of various factors, so many things in that. Just not merely by doing away with labor laws. Finally, labor laws were there to regulate something, to ensure payment of certain minimum wages or certain conditions of work, and a host of other benefits and privileges the workers were getting now.
Absolutely, sir.
See, when I'm saying today, I would say that in entire, if in all these things, as just now before we started, he said this is all coming out due to lockdown now, and this is just the beginning, and what we are going to see in future, God knows now. So here, what needs to be done is to be taken a middle path by which is beneficial both to the owner as well as to the employee.
Right,
Yes,
sir.
where the scenario, if again from sector to sector or company to company, firm to firm, or a small owner to owner, that would depend. If somebody says I can bear salaries up to a certain percentage of my employees for certain time, so be it. If not, then both the employee and the owner have to get into it, understanding whether we want to run the company or shut down the company.
Right, sir.
But today, again, there's a scenario which has come today is in Bombay, there's a company which it's an LLP company.
Right, sir.
They started business of school buses. Now,
Absolutely.
the told them, they saying that we will not renew your contract because there is no certainty or there is no guarantee parents will or when the school will start. Now the dilemma for that company is they do not have funds in their company even to pay for the lease amount of those buses what they're having, and they're having a workforce of 110 people now.
That's the issue, sir.
He says I don't have money in my account, in that LLP account. I just
That's a
don't have
major
it.
issue.
I will close my company altogether. I don't have it. I will just close it down. Now, so now in this scenario, the best thing for the company would be the finance company comes, repurchases buses and takes it away. So his half his tension is gone away now.
Nice. And rightly said, sir. There are two very nice points you raised there. Also, in terms of, sir, the labor effect, I was reading there was a report recently which said that, the labor growth phenomena which these states are promulgating, that it's going to lead to economic growth because there's no regulation, is actually counterproductive because there is a lot of, exploitation of labor in this sense.
Exploitation is bound to happen. Exploitation will happen.
The 8-hour workday is not going to stay. So you can imagine the amount of work we can. It's something like I had seen a very old movie called Pegam by Mr. Dilip Kumar, which spoke about labor reforms, and we are heading back to that century where we are missing out on intellectual points here. Another
Very
interesting.
true, very true.
And in the interesting take I want to take from you is, what about the organized sector, sir? We're talking about, let's say, small businesses I keep out of purview, but somewhere like, let's say a workman is working somewhere with a firm like PwC or Ernst & Young or Big Four or whatever you say. What
Yeah.
about the janitor who's working there? What about the water boy who's working there? How are they going to function in this?
So that is now here. I would say that at least big companies, renowned companies, ought to take care of such kind of people now, whether they are permanent or contractual. And mostly in such companies, they are always contractual.
Right,
I
sir.
would say at least they should follow the bare minimum wages salary. If they're not able to give them the full salary, it is
Right,
what the prescribed minimum wages are for that industry. Now, for example, they would fall under Shop and Establishment Act
right, sir.
because they're offices.
Right, sir.
So minimum wages as applicable to them should be paid to them at least.
Right, sir.
Bare minimum. That
And
would be hardly 10,000, 11,000.
and that's what they've been talking about, that where do these guys go in case if someone is fired, because contractual basis earlier, sir, were based on a financial year. Now they're saying you can have a contractual, remedy, contract in place which has got no term as such, right? An indefinite contract does not hold key to any form of
See,
law, sir.
today under Industrial Dispute Act under Section 200,
Sir,
there is a provision for keeping fixed term contract.
right, sir.
Provided we follow that scrupulously in principle. What happens is companies today, under that terminology of fixed term contract,
Right, sir.
people, employees are working for ages. The contract is initially for a 1 year, it gets extended, FTC. So either you keep either for 2 years, 3 years, or whatever your term is, but discontinue that and say, no, now I'm not renewing your contract. So people,
Absolutely, sir.
companies otherwise are also exploiting that loophole and continuing doing that contract term.
Right, sir.
So here also now, I would see big companies have to take a call what they need to do, how they need to, especially the janitor level employees, how
Right, sir.
they can take care of them.
Right, sir.
Yes, I mean I'm very sure big companies also have made pay cuts now, ranging
Absolutely.
from 10% to 25% going, and if it continues beyond June, then God save all of us. That is what I say.
No, absolutely, sir. So there is, I'll just like to mention, there is a disturbance in your audio, sir. That's because of the earpiece. I think, could you just hold it steady? I think there's a bit of a disturbance in the microphone, I think.
Now you
That's
can hear me.
so I can hear you, but there's a lot of on the sound piece, on your mouthpiece, maybe here. If you could see here, maybe there's a lot of yes, sir.
Hello.
If you could just keep it stable. Yes, sir. Now I can hear you.
Okay, yeah.
There was a lot of disturbance earlier on this.
Let me see.
Yeah, just keep it stable, sir, because you're moving it. It's creating a little bit of a noise. I think that's the disturbance.
Now it should be okay.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, sir, I can hear you. Now I'll come to the third point at hand, sir. The third point which we have is one pertaining to, sir, the absolute and strict liability of the incident that has happened in Vizag. And the NGT has imposed a 50 CR roughly penalty to go with. But what is your viewpoint on that? So what kind? I mean, we are holding them
The
responsible, of
directors.
course. Yes, sir. We are holding them
Yeah.
responsible, right? But
Yes.
who's
Yeah.
actually going to catch the gun? Who's going to get the who's going to take the fall for it, sir?
See, in such scenarios, generally under the Factories Act, it is always the occupier.
Right, sir.
It is always the occupier who's designated as the person responsible for the affairs of the factory under the Factories
Right,
Act.
Right, sir.
It is always that. But what happens is generally here, definitely the occupier of the factory would be responsible. But here, given the scenario, the state also has the option of even implicating the directors of the company here.
Oh, sir.
Definitely, the directors of the company can be implicated, and they can be FIRs can be filed against them.
Right,
for such massive breach, such a
right,
massive breach of safety, and
right,
where lives are lost,
right,
and there has been a danger to the life also. So this is very Factories Act is very clear in that the occupier, in case the occupier is not defined, or it would not be the case. That occupier would definitely be there, and occupier generally is always some manager or somebody inconsequential person,
right,
so that the directors are not implicated in this. But here, given the scale of this incident, definitely the directors of the company would be liable for this then. Unless until then, and because I'll just complete it, unless until there is something to show that they were not directly having knowledge, or it was not their responsibility to see that. Of course, that would be fought on those lines also. No, am I right, Jamshed?
Jamshed sir, we'll like to
Yeah,
have your
I
take
mean,
on this.
yes, I think, yeah, sure. I think absolutely right. Factories Act, occupier, directors liability, all correct. But I think, the important factor here was that this probably happened because they were in the process of, trying to restart the, the machinery or whatever. I think this is an issue that is going to happen a lot because you had a complete lockdown. You are supposed to, for example, there are supposed to be, chief inspectors who are regularly supposed to ensure the safety of that place and ensure that, not only on the issue of sort of gas leaks, but even other safety precautions, and that is all provided for. Now, in and I don't know whether there has been a breach, as in, if when was the last sort of
Inspection.
inspection done? That's right.
Absolutely,
And
sir.
what was found? Because if for 2 months you have no inspection and then suddenly there is a problem like that. Now, for example, I know because my brother is a chemical engineer, and they got a message from people in Vizag asking them that in this scenario, what are we supposed to do? And apart, so I asked my brother, I said, so what was the response? They gave whatever instructions, and they said the last inspection was very interesting. Inspection was, uh, after you do all this, run from the spot. Because they said you shouldn't be around this place in any case, and allow uh, the people with proper protection to actually enter the premises, and then try and block uh, the gas leak and things like that. But I think the other problem is we don't seem to be learning. Safety is always at a premium in our country, and I think that is the big thing. And this is not the first time that we've had these problems like this. And I think and of course there will be an inquiry, of course, but what happens to people who have lost their lives or have had serious repercussions on their health as a result of this? I think that is also something that needs to be looked into.
Absolutely, sir. And I want to put in two more questions here, sir. Something from a labor perspective again, and which has always been in the issue with our country is that we consider them not of primary importance. So when it comes to compliances, why I wanted to bring this topic was, let's say, sir, if I'm operating a plant and I'm regulating most of the areas around and my plant, and I have certain compliances I need to abide by. Suddenly, you're telling me those compliances are done with, including the trade unions and where we stand with other labor initiatives. Where do we go now with factory compliances, sir?
It's going to be chaotic now, but it's we are looking at a very disaster now. If they're really going to do away with the entire factory act, then yes, I'm say then, as Jamshed rightly said just now, it's throwing everything into the dustbin. Then that's it. I'm say I would do what I feel like is correct, or my right is might.
That's what.
And yes, and secondly, if I am not able to, or rather I don't want to spend on that thing, I will not, because according to me, it doesn't make any difference whether we do anything or not in that particular aspect of that safety. No, that is what it
Absolutely,
is.
sir. So,
I
I
think
mean,
Here
the other,
I would,
sorry,
sorry, no, yeah, continue.
no. So I think two aspects of the matter. One is yes, they do. The government has the power to sort of give a sort of a tax holiday, and labor law exemption. But I don't think this is the right time to give an exemption like that. Because what are you going to depend upon? Are you going to depend upon the Disaster Management Act?
absolutely,
Which, I
sir.
mean, a few colleagues are already saying that uh, that is a disaster in itself. What else? That Epidemic Act of the last century, which three sections. I mean, is that actually sufficient? Yes, I mean, you want to move towards a free market economy, no difficulty. You want to do certain things, sure. The other problem is, of course, unfortunately, our labor laws have held that anybody, who doesn't fall within the category of the workman, is resigned to the civil court,
Yes,
for whatever.
Yes.
So what does he do? So, these things, have to be taken into account, and the law and judiciary department, and, all of them, which law minister is a very, very accomplished senior advocate. I think they all need to look into this aspect.
absolutely, sir. In fact, I was also wondering, sir. Let's from as rightly said by you, from areas where we consider security to be premium in India. I mean, so for somebody like let's say a Tata who's operating a plant, let's say whether it's UP or otherwise, to a guy who's operating a brick lane. I mean, how would you understand that in a brick lane what procedures were earlier adhered to, and now you have freedom where you can make at least how many people you would want to work without any minimum wages. Also, gender difference, sir, in the wage is what I take, this wage gap which comes in. Earlier, I think it was still regulated when you have, ordinances in place. Now it can be exploited to any extent you would want, and you can hire and fire basis your gender also. Isn't that an interesting point, sir?
No, that would be, in fact, I would say that would be rampant, especially in the interiors of India, I would say
Right,
now.
sir. Right, sir.
East, and again, this would be exploited by those typically what we call as, especially in the upper north areas, which we call them thekedars or whatever
Right,
we
sir.
call them.
Right, sir.
So everybody would be at their whims and fancies. And again, see what Jamshed is rightly saying is, it is a law and judiciary which needs to take a relook at what things are happening now,
Right, sir.
how things, whether how things or how the business or everything needs to be in proper perspective now.
Right,
Now,
sir.
what priority, which to whom priority has to be given and whom not. It
Right, sir.
is everybody needs to take over now. See, yes, finally everything it boils down to finding human life now.
No, that's
It's
true,
finding
sir.
life now. So again we go back to constitution now. So constitution gives me that freedom of life, freedom of speech, freedom to live, freedom to work, freedom to, I'm saying within the given parameters. Now here, what is happening is by this ordinance coming up slowly and steadily, slowly all these freedoms are being taken away from those worker category people now.
Right, sir. So even
And who do not follow the work, they will go to the civil codes and otherwise also.
absolutely, sir. What I was saying about the employed category was someone who's working as a teacher, someone who's working as an agent, somebody who's working XYZ in a firm. Right now, I didn't, I mean, if you read the force majeure contract and how we have the clause, it's so undisclosed and not so interpretive. How do you interpret that? And what do you do in such a situation when you don't fall in that
See
bracket, sir?
here also when you say force majeure clauses,
So,
now you tell me which company would like to fight with their client on that aspect.
absolutely, sir. That's a very
They
important
will
point you raised.
because that if they say okay you want to fight with me, it doesn't matter. I'm terminating your contract. So be it. Here, take your money. Don't come from let's say 1 month notice period. Let's
Absolutely,
terminate.
sir.
So there you lose your business. So
Right,
today
sir.
now, I don't think so. Any company would get into that mode, saying that
Right,
okay,
sir.
I want to file a case against them, seeking an injunction on doing that.
Right, sir.
And and the way the things are moving in our courts right now,
Right, sir.
I just dread to think how are we going to operate going ahead now post, even if I say we have to reopen it on 1st of June, assumingly you're
Right, sir.
opening. I
Right,
don't
sir.
think so people are going to be allowed inside the courtroom.
Absolutely, sir.
I just don't think so how they're going to happen. And with this, on that aspect also, right now is the time what Jamshed has been actually pushing forward,
Sir.
pushing very vociferously about having virtual hearings now.
Right, sir.
But the major question here is what about the lower courts where the cases, the courtrooms are very small. The
Right, sir.
cases listed is at least nothing less than 200 to 300 cases a day now, out of which
Right,
hardly
sir.
five matters go on,
Right,
and
sir.
we are waiting for our matters the entire day now. So
Right,
what are
sir.
we looking at?
No, and on this front, I'd like to get Jamshed sir. I mean, thank you so much for your viewpoint on these two issues, sir, which we already have been discussing, Aneez, sir. But I'd like to get Jamshed sir here. We've been discussing in our previous forums also, sir. Now this has boiled down to again the same topic we've been discussing for the past 2 years. That is, when are we going to switch
Correct.
to the digital platform? I mean, and
So,
how do we function in a labor court now? Now that's interesting, sir. How do we go there?
yeah. Okay. So just for, I mean, those who are, who don't have a sort of a history on this
Sir.
aspect, the question of virtual hearings is not something that is absolutely new. We've had video conferencing, for example, or say an inmate in jail who wants, they have a bail application and they can sort of get in touch with the judge via video conference, or if there is a, for example, uh, a judge who's in a on another bench, and they want to pronounce a judgment without being present. So
Right, sir.
it has been used in since say about 2000 10, 11, 12 onwards. This has been going on, but it was never really conceived as a as a as a truly as a integral part of the judicial system. It was always ad hoc. Now, this is completely in contrast with what other countries have. I mean, there are, even a country like China,
Sir.
uh, it has virtual courts. Countries in Africa are moving towards that system.
Absolutely, sir.
Denmark, all its civil litigation is pretty much online. So
Sir.
it's very interesting. Now, let us see what happened in India, for example. So we've had let's take say the Bombay High Court to begin with.
Sir.
You had somebody filing a public interest litigation at one point of time, and in 2016 the Bombay High Court division bench actually goes and castigates the petitioner and says, you're absolutely wrong. There's no question. It'll eat it up into, the this sort of the dignity and supremacy of the court and things like that. And the petition was dismissed.
Right,
It was
sir.
only after what we now call Swapnil Tripaঠি's matter, where
Sir.
Indira Jaising filed for, live streaming. And, I had appeared there to introduce what is known as legal transcription, because we had legal transcription in 1908, where you had
Yes, sir.
stenographers taking down everything that was said in court. But for a variety of reasons, that disappeared from our system.
Right,
And
sir.
after that, you had, now Swapnil Tripaঠি's matter, the judgment was pronounced in 2018, the same day as the Aadhaar judgment.
Sir.
Now, till date, okay, even you've not even had a prototype out. So that is how slowly, unfortunately, our courts are functioning today. And now you are being put into the system of video conferencing, okay, and virtual, and everything is ad hoc. You need to have just as you have a website, you need to have a cloud which will record and keep all these judgments. Currently, they are using anything that is available. We don't
Right,
have
sir.
rules in place.
Right, sir.
We don't have proper guidelines in place.
Sir.
Okay, I mean, I actually feel quite sorry for the judges, because they are not even used to the system. So they
Absolutely, sir.
have to be oriented. The lawyers, of course, have to be oriented, and so do the litigants. People entering, the conference, and then talking about certain things. Every time you enter, what are you supposed to do? Well, just today, I sent some of our colleagues a detailed
Sir.
note on how, for example,
British
courts
Columbia.
in British Columbia. That's right.
Yes,
How
sir.
they have so simple and straighthtforard.
I was
That is
about to
what
come to
we
that, sir.
really need today.
Right,
But
sir.
yes, coming to then, are they required, and especially at the district court? Yes, I think the E committee of the Supreme Court, led by Justice Chandrachud, is looking into this very aspect itself, and they are going to very quickly, I hope, put all these at least the rules in place. And I agree what Aneez is saying. It is at the lower court that this will be the need and the necessity is maximum over there, because you need to have it. And once it becomes a part of the process,
Sir.
I mean, believe you me, you don't. Okay, and I've always said that in the interim, you can have, as you have in a television studio, you have somebody going to the court, sure, but you can also have someone who can tune in from outside. I'm presuming after the lockdown and after things ease off a little bit, whoever can reach the court, excellent. Whoever can't, it's fine. Also, labor courts and all the rest, you have the issue of trials.
Right,
Okay,
sir.
it's a great trial practice. At least it used to be several years ago. Where now, what about evidence? How is evidence going to be led
Right, sir.
in a virtual court system? Will we be putting up like a 360 degree camera that so that the witness is not tutored. All these things are, they are part of the virtual world, and these things. And the other thing which I find, amazing is that several countries have been through this very, very easily. And, I think we just need to catch up. That's the.
No, and rightly, sir, we were discussing. In fact, last time I had somebody from UK, Advocate Nandan was with us. He's in UK, and we discussed. The three of us were discussing on that topic, and such a small aspect that he was working in the social security services, sir. And on that front, I mean, imagine having a transcription and the time limit to speak in that zone which you have on a video conferencing as well from a remote location, including evidence and summaries. Now, in a labor court, sir, let alone the equipment to deal with the situation. If you ever visit I mean, I visited labor offices some 8 years back. I don't think, sir, infrastructure is what there is nothing in terms of infrastructure as far as technology is concerned, sir. I mean, how would you equip a workforce
Exactly.
which has not been used to, who's been only used to registers and paper, suddenly to migrate to a system where it's completely, so the guidelines have to be pretty clear, sir. That's what we're missing out on a lot of fronts.
Correct. Correct. And I think what is really important, it's not difficult. See, everybody, your entire, say your land records, okay,
Sir,
they were
sir,
digitized at least. So, I mean, moving, step by step towards this. See, by and large, our population, everybody owns a mobile phone. Okay,
right,
it's
sir.
not, except yes, we have the poorest of poor also in our country, which is correct. But still, so getting that in place, you have to give it time. You're right. You have to also make the process very user friendly. I think that is very, very important. Get things, and don't have this dual process of having a hard copy and something in an electronic form. I think you're just doubling. Like for example, I heard that certain lawyers in certain states have had to give undertakings to the court that when the court reopens, they will file, the hard copies in court.
Right,
There,
sir.
there's
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely no need. Follow one system or follow the other. Now that the Supreme Court is going to start with e-filing, I think e-filing should be done irrespective. I mean, and
Right, sir.
at least start
Actually,
off with it. Yeah,
documents are
and and
scanned and
and, and
uploaded. That's it.
that's right. and
Sir,
and I think that is the way forward. And you know educate. The first thing, that's the other issue. Right from your law colleges, in your drafting, pleading, and
right, sir.
conveyancing subject, have this as an important. Have a guest lecture. Get somebody from anywhere. I mean, Bangalore is full of very good tech, you know, uh, people and platforms who would be very happy to show. I mean, just now I was taken through an entire complete start to finish online arbitration system, and it's
Which, yes,
remarkable.
sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
No, it's available. The only question is, we've never really. I, I mean, a few of us have thought about it, but others, it's a complete mindset change that yes, it is possible. And the advantages are amazing. I mean, every hearing, whatever you do, can immediately be recorded, can be posted on the page. There can be time limits. You can be informed online by the platform. Can you imagine that your written statement has not been filed on time? So please do it. So no question of getting there and saying that now I need an adjournment. So it
Exactly.
can things can be done very effectively. And I think the labor courts would be a great place to start something like this.
No, absolutely, sir. And Jamshed sir, we were discussing, in fact, in one of our sessions on my podcast also, the FRRO issue. Now, I'm going to bring that in with respect to our current situation where we are now. Someone who's stuck in India, sir. Now, we were thinking about how does he approach the office when there are no clear guidelines on certain visa aspects. Now, a
Right.
lockdown. There's a circular saying that XYZ lockdown is there. First of all, I'll come to the constitutionality of that. A lockdown is in place. Now, where does a person like this go when we don't have video conferencing to access to courts? I'm a foreigner. I don't speak your language. I'm stuck in a country where it's a major issue for me to communicate with the local administration. Where do I go if you don't provide me with the online platform? And it's a very valid question. So we had a client from Spain, and me and Hasleen, in fact, we were on the client, my wife, and it was her client. And then there was no solution because she couldn't speak the lingo, and the police wouldn't help her out and direct her to the embassy. Now, in such a situation, if we had a platform, digital platform where we could connect, wouldn't that be a much more bonus to us, sir, from a judiciary and from, of course, from the FRO perspective?
Aneez, would you like to this thing?
Ah,
No,
I
that is your area. That FRO
Okay.
is your area. That's
All
your
right, all right.
area.
Okay. So, no, I think as far as I know, FRRO, a lot of things have now become online. At least I know in Mumbai, most of it is online. I don't think that's an issue. I think uh, I did see, foreign ministry circular saying that all visas, even if you have overstayed, are
right, sir.
granted
Right.
till your flights, take off. I think that's
Resume,
not
yeah.
an issue.
Right, sir.
And I think we are not the only country. I mean, I know of this Argentinian lady who's stuck in Goa,
Sir.
who's had the same problem where her country doesn't want her back till the flights are resumed. So I think this
Right.
is an international issue.
Right, sir.
Yes. One, this is as far as foreign passport holders are concerned.
Right, sir.
There is another issue. The issue is of uh, the OCI,
Right, sir.
people with of Indian origin, and that they are also a very interesting set of people who, for example, have actually live in India practically. They have hold foreign passports. I mean, you can see there are so many people who offer you citizenship of several countries, whether on the basis of economics or you want your family immigration and things like that. But when it came down to a situation like this, you had a problem because the first category that they struck off was an OCI. Now
Right, sir.
imagine you are out of India, you've gone for work or for whatever, and for some reason you can't come back into India. Okay, what happens to you? And so therefore these repatriation flights and so many different things. I think one thing that the government must consider, and we are moving towards that, is dual citizenship now for India. I think it has been on the cards. And OCI, I mean, I believe there is a petition that is pending. I don't know what has happened to it in the Supreme Court, where they were also, going to be given voting rights.
Right, sir.
Now, I don't know. I mean, they are virtually Indian citizens except owning agricultural property. Everything else they can do. But then you don't treat them as Indian citizens when it comes to, situations like this. So I think that is again something that needs to change. And yes, I mean, communication, like as you said in the case of the Spanish lady, again, if it were online, for example, we're talking about translation, right?
Right,
You
sir.
just go to the International Court of Justice. I mean, absolutely fantastic.
Right, sir.
You not only have your transcripts in the subject of, I mean, in the language of your choice,
Right, sir.
you can immediately put on, the translate, uh, button. You can hear the recording in the language of your choice, and things like that. So it just reminds me like in the earlier days when you would go to Europe and you visit a particular tourist spot and where you could actually listen to uh, things about the spot on a phone. Again, you put
Yes, sir.
in in the coin box and you listen to it in the again the language of your choice.
Right,
So
sir.
I think these small little practical things will go a long way
Right,
in
sir.
the virtuality will really help.
Right, sir. No, I'll now come to the next important agenda, sir, and then we'll leave the house open just for some people to ask questions before we close. Is about the constitutionality of lockdowns. And now I've been reiterating this again and again, sir. A lot of people, and you and I have been discussing this on so many forums. In fact, wherever I've hosted this forum, I've always asked you this, but still people do write in, and this is for you also, Aneez sir. I mean, please answer on this. How do you make something like a term lockdown constitutionally valid, sir, when it does not origin in our constitution? It is not an emergency. It does not fall within financial emergency or national
No,
emergency.
no.
It,
In fact, I think I'm eagerly waiting for that case to come up for hearing this. I think on 15th, I think Mr. Jamshed Kama, our senior counsel, is going to argue in that matter.
right, sir.
Same thing on the lockdown issue. A company from Maharashtra has filed a petition that they may be allowed to override that the directive of Maharashtra government and of also the MHA by paying only 50% of the basic and dearness allowance.
Oh,
So going to be that's going to come up for hearing, and cross petitions have been filed saying that by the unions the company should pay full salary because it's a contract between the employer and the employee.
right, sir.
So that again that is also on the on the issue of constitutionality now.
Right, sir.
Upon constitution now whether they have the right to issue such notification, not notification, such directive I would say.
Right, sir.
Or no, because in Marathi they have stated it as is Adesh. In Adesh, when you translate the word Adesh means order,
Order.
direction. So which means it's not a notified. It is not
Right,
ordinance. It's simply in just a signed paper issued by the governor of Maharashtra. He is irrespective of the sizes should pay the salaries to everyone.
right, sir.
Now, so now your question is a very tricky one here now.
Right, sir.
It's a very tricky question here now. On one hand, it is whether a employee has a right to receive full salary irrespective of a company earning anything or not, irrespective of the size of the company here now.
Right, sir.
Because there is no differentiation made in the directive of a company saying that a company who's doing good, doing bad. So the directive simply says everybody right from a small shop owner to the big company have to pay the salary to an employee, whether he's a direct employee, permanent, temporary, casual, contractual. So here it would be a very tricky question for the Supreme Court also to answer. They'll be doing a balancing act while delivering this judgment on that, and they really, I hope so, they do this now. Because finally, if it becomes a lopsided one, then tomorrow it could also be a scenario where the company will start filing for either bankruptcy.
Absolutely,
Or they will say,
sir.
then what do you do then? Can you force somebody to operate against their wishes? Can you do that? And again, at the same time, it is a two-edged sword where I will say the company would also take advantage of the scenario then.
Right, sir.
Come out and they might restart again with using some other names, other persons, everything other. What are you going to do about it?
Right, sir. Absolutely, sir. Because compliances are waived off, and then you don't know who's starting with which set of rules and directors you're starting again. You would not know also in any court of law, sir, how it's operating. No, that's an interesting point on that. So, Jamshed, sir, your take on the constitutionality. You've actually said enough earlier also on this, but again, it's just to make our listeners aware of this.
No, so again, this is sorry to use the word, a concocted term. There is nothing like, lockdown. We have you have lock up in a prison, but that's the closest. You have layoff and, other terms under labor law. Now, of course, in all those, again, the Industrial Disputes Act the local, the unfair labor practices and all these other acts essentially has never it has contemplated retrenchment, it has contemplated so many other aspects, but never this complete closure. Even closure is a term, but uniform closure across the country one shot. I don't think that was ever anticipated, and therefore, it has to be looked at in a completely different, sense. And therefore, to sort of, yes, see, the other interesting thing is that there has been no sort of uniformity in, so Do labor laws apply? In some states, yes, they do. Some states they've given an exemption,
Absolutely, sir.
and things like that. So I think we have a lack of consistency, but we have to presume that yes, labor laws do apply. Now, if labor laws do apply, then now what will happen? So for all these things, for retrenchment, for closure, notice has to be given, and you have to explain why you are, closing down. The labor court and the unions are entitled to challenge it then in their respective labor courts or industrial courts, as the case may be. And now again, this will become a long drawn process, and in the meanwhile, what do you sort of deposit the workmen's wages in under protest? Is that what you will do? uh, and as Aneez rightly said, since it does not define the whether it's a small company or a small establishment or a large establishment, and can you therefore compare the two? And so there are all these, and of course there are advisories continuously from them, including in the IT sector, saying that it would be good, please continue with them. Yes, see, typically what is happening is nobody would like to bring their business down. Nobody would like to unnecessarily retrench or sack their employees. It's a peculiar situation. So you will now have renegotiation of terms. You will have people saying that, okay, we'll continue you, but at less amount of salary and things like that. And in fact, yesterday I was talking to somebody who works in the IT business, who was saying that we've been very categorically told, you better just stay at home and work out of home. Now, if in certain industries and certain cases that is possible,
Right,
but
sir.
in a lot of places and cases, it's just not possible. Your physical
No, no.
presence is required.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
all these things will have to be certainly considered. And yes, I mean, since our senior colleague Mr. Kama is arguing the matter, yes, we will watch it very carefully. And
It's coming
how
on
nice it
15th,
would
no?
be.
It is coming on
Hopefully,
15th,
yes,
no?
yes, yes.
Hopefully, yeah.
Again, and hopefully, imagine again a matter like this. Why should it not have been live streamed?
Yeah, I
Is
know.
my
Actually,
question. Where
actually, it
the
should be.
whole
Actually, it should be.
that's right. The nation
Hello.
Hello, this is sir. We've just lost you. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think he's having a
Yeah.
problem.
So your
In fact, Amber, I'll just add to what he was saying. There's
sir.
in this
what
scenario
is
where,
going
let's
on.
say, sorry,
So, and you have
Sir, we have
great
you back.
orators on
Yeah.
both sides, Tushar
Yes, sir.
Mehta and Mr. Kama. So, so let's see.
No,
so
and
I'll just add to what you were telling just now.
sir,
Ki, let's say there is a scenario in UP where they have done away with all the laws now.
absolutely,
A
sir.
company based out on UP has an office in Bombay. Tomorrow there's a problem. They will say कि हमने तो company बंद कर दिया है. आप यहाँ देख लो, यहाँ भी company बंद हो गया. Although I might not be having the permission here to close it. But going back, I will say, no, I've closed it. You cannot stop me from closing the company now. So that there also it's going to be there is inconsistency of law between the UP and the Maharashtra.
And sir, I have certain guests from the customs erstwhile department panel like Nanda sir and Rao sir and everybody. Hi sir. And you know, hi sir, how are you? And on that,
Thank you. Good
on
evening, everybody.
Good evening.
and on that, Nanda sir was a sir joint commissioner, if I was not wrong, with the customs department in Bombay. So there is a huge issue now. I want to put to you also is if like what Aneez sir said that if one part of the administration says I'm shut off, where do I go with my other compliances, whether it is from customs or whether it is from indirect taxes? I would just say I'm not a part of you. Now, how do these two different areas coincide and work? Isn't that an issue, sir?
I think unless the company goes into liquidation,
Sir,
legally, closure and liquidation will be two different entities.
all right.
If it is under liquidation, then their liability will be decided by that
Particular court.
High Court. That liquidation.
Whatever that forum is, NCLT or the High Court or wherever we speak.
Now NCLT,
In fact,
otherwise the liability will always remain there.
and
Even if you go there company.
why I brought this point out, sir, was very interesting. I had also a client writing in, sir, and the client wrote in saying that one of my offices has decided to close under the GST registration and give up on
Yeah.
all the custom files of SVB, etc. And now
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't know in central office in Delhi, what do we do with that? Now, who do you, because it is, as we know, the credit is being blocked because all
Yeah.
of a sudden the wing which was importing is shut, and the
Yeah.
credit was assumed by the Delhi office also. So
Yeah. Yeah.
complexities, sir, coming from this, if you put up, such a situation is huge. Why not Aneez, sir? Why not Jamshed, sir? What's your take on this?
Hello.
Sorry, could you just repeat the
Sir.
question again? I didn't.
So the issue which I posted before all of you was this, that
Yes.
I had a client who
Yeah.
was importing an XYZ product and from a certain state, which was Uttar Pradesh. And these guys, of course, shut one of their branches in Mumbai. And the credit was accumulated in center, which was in UP, at least in Noida. And
Right.
suddenly the Noida branch, which was claiming the credit, now says that our Bombay office, which was again an office, has said that we were a separate entity acquired by you guys. Now we don't hold the responsibility towards credit. And before they go into litigation, of course, whether it is with NCLT or otherwise, how do you deal with such a situation, sir? This is huge. I mean, you see, these are certain practical problems in taxation which will be faced. I mean, of course, the giants can handle it better. But what do you about somebody who's the size of, let's say, a MSME, sir? Where do they go? Because, of course, right now you can't file anything. When everything opens up, you have to dispute. But in the meantime, your credit is blocked and your business is as it is stuck.
No, so I think this is ultimately for the respective, depending upon which tax authority it goes before. I think they will certainly determine that question. I mean, for example, even under labor laws, the question
Sir.
is whether you are a branch, you are a part of the
Sir.
establishment.
Sir.
These are all questions that are certainly, it's possible to decide. Only, I think the question is when. I mean, I don't know when. I mean, whenever, because it's so uncertain, and I think this is the peculiarity about this particular pandemic, that there is. Will you then sort of? I think as far as possible, they should first thing try and go back to the existing legislation, see how best they can work around that. And if it just cannot be decided, I mean, like for example, say you're talking about income tax. I mean, everything is online, everything is filed. There should not be a problem there at all,
Sir, in indirect
except you
taxation, no, the point was
Yeah.
regarding indirect taxation, sir. Indirect taxation, in fact, customs, and I want to bring Nanda sir in here. Sir, I mean, you've had so many hearings, and I've appeared
Yeah.
with you for so many SPB hearings.
Yeah.
Having a remote information, and we used to have everything on files, physical files in the SPB department. Where do you
Yeah.
go with this, sir?
Now files will go wither away slowly. It definitely. Now
Right, sir.
things have come to that stage that
Right,
you
sir.
submit your data and there will be a link to verify those data.
Right, sir.
Suppose you declared something is there, this much is your, and that will be linked by the other web links, and
Right,
they will
sir.
verify and they will go ahead. That's
Right,
the
sir.
process going on now.
All
So,
right, sir.
but virtually it will come like that.
Virtually, it will come like this. So then says that it comes back to the same point that virtually, at least Bombay, I'm sure it's very well equipped with infrastructure as far as we talk about conferencing. I hope rest of India copes up.
Yeah. They should rise up to that requirement. Need.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is the need of the hour. Mr. Rana, I just want to tell you, there is a Disaster Management Act regarding
Sir.
constitutionality of lockdown. I was
Sir.
just thinking, because very wise people are there. I am never in the field and the constitution side,
Sir.
simply other than the student.
Right,
So
sir.
I just wanted to say 245, 246
Sir.
article
Sir.
where the powers are distributed.
Sir.
And if you see, concurrent list, there is a 29.
Right, sir.
It is relating to some disease or something like that. They
Right,
can
sir.
make law.
Right, sir.
Will that give a power to the union? Though not making, it is as good as making ordinance on a subject or making a law subsequently. First make the law or first make the ordinance in one. If it is approved by the subsequently legislature, then it becomes a law.
Absolutely,
So
sir.
do they have the power to issue such ordinance? I think 29 may give them a cover. And read
Jamshed sir,
with the
Aneez sir,
Disaster Management Act.
I'd like you to come in. Sir, only disaster is only owning a part of it. Jamshed sir, I'd like you to answer this.
No. So, see, it's like this. I mean, if you promulgate an ordinance, and then
Sir.
by the time the I don't know, you probably have a virtual parliamentary or state legislature sitting, and and then they have to approve of it. That is true. And if it does not, then the ordinance technically also lapses. So
Lapses.
what happens? So these are issues that have to be considered. I think I think what they also need to do, like for example, in the classic case was the demonetization,
Right, sir.
where in previous years what had happened was the Reserve Bank of India had actually promulgated, they had actually got amendments to the act. And the last time in 2016, they went as in by way of a notification.
Right, sir.
And of course, these matters I believe are still pending in the Supreme Court, so we can't comment.
Right,
But this is the kind of change, and they will always say that in the circumstances, what can we do? But again the question arises of the fact that do you have the power to do so? I mean, that is
Right,
the
sir.
first question. And of course, if it is on the on the union list, state list, or concurrent list, then yes. Otherwise, if you don't have the power, then it can be struck off as being ultra virus. So these are all questions that courts have to decide.
Absolutely, sir. And now I'll since we are approaching to the close, I have a question, sir, from the group, and this is maybe Aneez, sir, and sir, you could address this. It says that all government sections are gradually changing technologically. This pandemic is in fact hastening it, but does the trade really want it? Then they may be more happy in the manual mode for obvious reasons.
No, I'll tell you now. I'll answer. The simple thing is under labor laws now, we have something called as the obtaining contract labor license every year.
Sir.
Now, if you ask me, it has become online process for the last 2 years, more than 2 years almost. I would say that
Right, sir.
From 18 onwards they have started.
Right, sir.
But funnily enough, till the time you don't visit the labor office,
Sir.
the online process is not completed. So how
That's
much ever you do the
everywhere.
online, I'm sorry to say that.
Almost everywhere. Almost in
So
every
it's sorry to say
forum.
that. So you have
Every
to go
forum.
there. So I would say it's a very funny part. You keep on. You have the best of the equipment in your office. You have the best of the laptop, the latest, what do you say, the Xerox machine or the scanners and everything, and the best of speed, internet speeds and everything. But you try how much that website will never move ahead.
Sir, I have a small thing to share. When in 80s, end of 80s, when computerization was started in customs assessment, everybody was reluctant, everybody was doubtful. Something will happen, something will not come. Slowly, people got used to it. Now everybody is doing it.
Not everybody
So
is
it's a
doing
matter
it.
of time only. It's matter
See,
of time.
it's herein, I would say, see, if people have to be honest, people are honest, irrespective of what systems are there in place.
Sure.
So today, tomorrow also, you would have 100% of digitization. Still, you would have that kind of problems where things can happen. If things have to go wrong, things have to go wrong.
Some people
But
love muddy water for some reasons.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's an inherent nature of a human being.
Yes,
whatever you do the best, there are always loopholes. And we Indians are very good enough and very smart enough to take out the loopholes of a system now. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's not that game. So see, technologically, we have to move on, I would say. It is
So
in
this system,
Yeah.
so we are used to what is always known as a hybrid system. You can have up to 99%, but that 1% personal touch is required. So, but that is true, and that's fine. I mean, as long as it does not disturb the ecosystem, you can do that.
It's
But
very gently putting it that way.
no, this is like, for example, your currency. Nowhere in the world
Yeah,
have
yeah,
they
yeah.
managed to go completely cashless. It's not possible.
It's not
It's
possible.
not possible.
So
That's true, yeah.
But Jamshed sir, on this point, before we close down, I mean, we were talking to our UK counterpart, and he was saying evidence and summary happening on these virtual, courts.
yes.
I mean, how is UK managing something like that, sir?
No, I think UK is following a very simple process. If you look at you know for example, you had the Seoul, so the South Korea, the protocol on virtual technology. So
Sir,
there are a couple of systems that you can follow. Very
sir,
simple. One is it's available. You have a 360-degree camera, which the judge or the
sir,
can actually a judge, arbitrator, whoever it is, presiding officer can
sir,
go into this. Essentially, it sensitizes that place where the witness is.
sir.
Then whoever asks that question, because the only thing that the
Pani ki
amount of
bottle डालो.
fairness
Pani ki
is
bottle.
vital. You must ensure that that is maintained. So how do you do that? You must ensure that the person, he doesn't get tutored. The witness doesn't get tutored. So
Right, sir.
that is so they've managed that very well now. I think to get that kind of thing done is easy. You have to just follow a protocol, or even supposing you do have a single sort of camera, then you must have a person who is sort of respected in that particular place. Say it is somebody's office. Just ensure that nobody is around, and that person then reports back to the presiding officer saying that I have checked it, and I'm certain that he doesn't have any sort of documents or things with him wherein he's being tutored, or that he's not got a sort of
Prometric
a
centers can
phone.
be opened in remote areas. Prometric
That's
centers, like
that's
otherwise
right.
people, yeah, that can be opened.
That's right.
So client need not visit all the way to the court. So nearest prometric
Absolutely.
center he can go, and that is a easier access.
And
Absolutely.
Aneez
So
sir, yes, sir. Sorry. I got you in between.
Please.
No, sir.
no. So I mean, just to sort of I think they need to really accelerate now on this process, and
That's true.
uh,
That's true.
have a policy and implement.
Absolutely.
So it's a will of the state government what they need to do. That's the only thing here.
Aneez sir, your last comments on the labor aspect. It's going to be 7. We're going to shut the discussion. But your last views on the discussion as to what do you suggest for people out there, for manufacturers, for all industry owners? Where do they go with this?
No, see, I today in the given scenario, it's a very difficult. It's a very difficult choice people have to make today. It's a very difficult decision, I would rather say. See, even today there are laws. In Maharashtra, for example, we are in Maharashtra.
Sir.
But what you need to understand here is if you have a good rapport with your, now today's time is for good man management.
Right, sir.
How you have connected your employees, what are your cash reserves, how you can take care of your people now. See, it is also one thing I would always say is that somebody who has worked for you for the last 10 years can't even take care of that person for 2 months or 3 months for that matter.
Absolutely.
Maybe not the entire salary, but definitely not only 10%. Something reasonable where his family is taken care of. Whatever the laws are there, but today that at least that thing has to go to the employee. And again, at the same time, the employee also needs to understand that fair enough, my employer is taking care of me in such times. So I need to adjust somewhere or the other, maybe not 100% if I'm getting some percentage, a chunk of major chunk.
Right, sir.
So see, laws would keep on promulgating, laws would keep on coming, and there would be cases coming up post lockdown kind of what we say. And if at all that lockdown is going to go away, God alone knows now. With
Another 20, 30 years at least. Till the litigations will be over.
At least the way things, the situation is happening, I don't say things. And tomorrow, as I was starting in the beginning of our conversation, how, when it happens actually, really would we be allowed, especially in the trial courts, at least in the high court, you have a lot of machinery to take care of everything. But in the trial court, it's a free for all.
Sir.
You have demand matters going, you have the DV matter going, you have the check bouncing matter going, you have the IPC matter going. I'm saying, as I said, there are 300 matters listed. How are you going to regulate the entry of the people there?
Absolutely, sir.
No.
Yeah.
So here but yes, coming to the point, labor laws, I would say we need to take a balanced view now, which would be a win-win situation for both the people now. It's just not just favoring the labor or the workman and just the employer. It always has to be a balanced state. I'm saying tomorrow if the Supreme Court says no, everybody needs to be paid in full, then mark my words, I guess we should be ready with people coming in, companies coming into filing for bankruptcy and closing down the company altogether.
Absolutely.
They will close it down completely rather than work like as it is then. So it's not a scenario. We have to look at a scenario where we can go on for in the long run now. Because here, as it is for current financial year, at least in the business circles, current financial years, nobody's looking at business now. Everybody's looking at survival.
Right, sir.
Is looking at making profits from earning money. Everybody's looking how do we survive. That is what the key word today is going around today.
Yes.
In which manner, in which way we survive and move on together. That is what the key word is today. So today today if we look at it as we speak also, so many people have already lost their jobs.
Right, sir.
Sure.
Now by the time they file the case, the matter comes up for hearing, I'm still looking at another 1 year. What did they do 1 year now? What are they going to do now? And assumingly even there's within 6 months, if there's some relief, how do you implement that order? So again, by the time it is implemented and things, and so it gets diluted. What is it you've got in your hand? Nothing. So might as well go take a balanced view where the employee also accepts certain realities, the employer accepts the realities, and together we all move now. That is what I feel.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Jamshed, sir. Thank you, everybody else for being here, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
for enlightening us, and Ambar for giving us an opportunity to interact.
Absolutely.
See you
Thank you
sometime.
so much.
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jamshed, sir.
Thank you, Jamshed. Bye, Ambar.
Absolutely a pleasure to have you guys, sir. Bye-bye, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for enlightening us. Thank you.
Thanks.